Just years ago, digital identity meant email, passwords, and then maybe a social media profile. The direction we're heading towards right now is quite different and brings about a lot more consequences. We're talking digital identity that will decide access not only to services, but also to money, work, tools, and even transport. So before going any further into that, it helps to make a distinction that most people don't even consider. The difference between your digital self and your digital identity, because they're not exactly the same thing. And once you see that difference, the rest of this makes a lot more sense. Your digital self is what you curate, your online persona if you want, your profile and everything you post. Basically, the version of yourself you consciously choose to put out. And you can edit it, delete parts of it, or totally reinvent it. Digital identity, on the other hand, is something else. Is what systems use to recognize you and assess you across platforms and services. The entire collection of traces associated with your activity online. Some of it is what you willingly share, and researchers call this self-asserted identity. But a lot of it is what gets inferred, namely your browsing patterns, what you buy online, how long you pause a video before scrolling past it, what time of day you're online, and so on. This metadata gets assembled automatically by algorithms from the trail you leave just by being online. In many cases, this version of you, the one you didn't consciously create, the one you're not even aware of maybe, is more detailed and more accurate than what you've chosen to share. So when people say, I control my identity online, they're usually talking about that part they can see, that public digital persona. The part you can't see is the one centralized systems are actually running on, is the one being tracked, sold, and used to decide how you're treated online. If you look at how we authenticate today, someone might ask, why not just stick with using Google logins for everything? It's fast, it's everywhere, and it works, right? And it does work indeed. Billions of people use it every day. But what you get in that exchange is convenience in return for indefinite dependence. You don't own the data behind those logins. You don't own your credentials on Google. You're basically renting access to your digital life, and you have no control over the terms of that rental. And at some point, that dependence turns into leverage, because once identity becomes the infrastructure for how you operate and live not only online, but increasingly offline as well, access becomes the ultimate control mechanism. Access is what gets granted, withdrawn, paused, flagged, and often by automated AI systems making assessments you can't really contest. So in other words, we're moving away from privacy and closer to a world of gated access and control. In a world where your work, your money, and your travel are getting connected through one infrastructure, that kind of power over your identity should be a public and transparent conversation. But it's not. Instead, the response from centralized systems is always the same: collect more data. The only solution they offer is more ID checks, more biometric scans, more scanning of private messages, and it's all done in the name of your safety and protection. But the result is just a few private companies holding massive databases of your most sensitive information. And that raises two big problems at once. Firstly, the human rights problem, and secondly, the security problem. Because by gathering all that data into one place, we're basically just creating a global honeypot for cyber criminals. We're concentrating the world's most valuable information into single points of failure, making them the primary targets for the exact attacks we're trying to prevent. But there is another direction and solution, one that changes how verification works. It's built on what's called zero-knowledge proofs, a cryptographic technique that lets you prove a claim without revealing the underlying data. That's why the term ZK keeps showing up in Web3. Blockchains can verify proofs, keeping the private details private. So let's say a platform needs to know you're over 18. What does it actually need? Just that one fact, right? It doesn't need your birthday, your address, or your full identity history. It should be possible to prove that fact without exposing everything else. And it is. Zero-knowledge technology lets you prove a specific fact cryptographically and verifiably without having to provide any other information. This breaks the assumption that verification requires so much exposure. You can prove who you are without handing over your data. And once we break that assumption, we open up to other possibilities, especially in terms of what we call interoperability. Right now, your digital life is fragmented. Different services know different things about you and nothing carries over. So every time you join a new service, you have to start at the beginning. Prove your eligibility again and again, even though that information already exists somewhere else. Single sign-on makes logins easy, but it doesn't carry your verified facts. There's a related issue with what interoperability means when you don't own your data. Laws like GDPR prevent companies from sharing your data with each other, which makes perfect sense, right? They shouldn't. But the side effect of that is that you as a person don't benefit from information that multiple companies already hold about you that would actually be useful if it were combined. But when you own your digital identity, that identity then becomes the bridge. You don't need platforms to share data behind your back. You simply show up with your own verified context and choose what to reveal for what specific purpose. And then there's AI, which changes everything in ways we're not even catching up yet. AI agents are already acting on people's behalf, booking things, paying for things, communicating, making decisions. And one of the most important questions being asked right now is, how do you delegate authority to an AI agent in a way that's verifiable? If an agent acts in your name, there needs to be a cryptographic record that you authorize it within specific limits and for a specific purpose. Otherwise, there's no actual way to assign responsibility, no way to revoke that delegation if something goes wrong. Decentralized identity, the kind where your credentials live with you rather than in a central database and architecture, fits this need. But what we're missing is the adoption and probably the actual willingness at the top levels to move away from over-centralized systems. If we keep renting identity from platforms and then start delegating agency through those same platforms, we're only deepening our dependence on centralized systems at exactly the moment when the stakes of that dependence are getting higher. People in their 20s and 30s grew up being monetized. Those who have real digital literacy understand what's happening to their data in a way that older generations didn't when they were making those early trades. They have different expectations of what their digital life should look like. And that's a good thing. And that's also the reason digital literacy is so important right now. It's also why we're making this video. So yes, digital identity is becoming the invisible infrastructure of modern life and is determining your mobility, your financial agency, and your right to participate in society. If that infrastructure is fully centralized, your freedom might become conditional. So, we need to stay informed. This video series is a map of where the web and digitalization is going. Share it with your friends and spread awareness about the digital space. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episode.